So, good morning. If you allow me, I will be speaking in Slovak. Hopefully I succeed. So we have heard many interesting pieces of information, in my opinion. I think they all point out to the fact that central heating distribution systems are not a blind alley, but they do have future, and I think that this is very important for Slovakia, because in Slovakia we have more than 16,000 houses, which is 650,000 apartments, and which is 1.8 million of people. These are all served by district heating systems. So it definitely makes sense to think about these systems. We've seen and we've heard that the world did not fall asleep, and it keeps on developing quite fast in this regard. And the question on us is, how can we approach this? How can we if these changes are seen as a threat that we are afraid of, or if we grasp them as an opportunity for us to move forward. It all depends on each and every one of us, and also on every company, and it is a question on the entire heating industry. Maybe to demonstrate this in more detailed, I decided to prepare two brief historical stories. You probably don't know this gentleman. Maybe some of you saw this picture before. It's Mr. Rackham. In 1903, he was the lawyer. He had a functioning legal office, and another gentleman approached him, and his name was Henry Ford. And the latter gentleman asked him to prepare documents for establishing a new company that was supposed to be the Ford Motor Company. Lawyers usually have some free resources available, so Mr. Henry Ford immediately asked the lawyer if he would not be interested in investing into this company. Mr. Rackham was a cautious lawyer, so he went to the Michigan Savings Bank to seek some advice with the director if it would make sense to join this new company, this new industry. And the advice he got was that horses will not be threatened because an automobile is just a crazy fad. The lawyer did not take this advice. He purchased 50 shares for $5,000. This was in the year 1903. 10 years later, in 1913, he shut down his legal office because he just didn't. He could just live off the dividends. In 1919, he sold his share for $12,500,000. This gentleman died in 1933 as a very wealthy man and a philanthropist who supported the University of Michigan and child charity organizations. The bank was out of business at that time. So this is just one example, and I will give you another. This is also connected with the automotive industry. You probably know this gentleman. This is Mr. Henry Ford. The picture on the right hand side is the T model by Ford, probably the most famous automobile of all times. Because of this vehicle, the automobile industry developed into a mass industry. You can see sales of this model starting in 1909 when it was introduced to the market. It was 10,000 people, and in 1923 2 million of these automobiles were sold. At that time, this model had a 60% share on the market in the United States. The world is obviously changing in the automotive industry and in everything, and sometimes even these geniuses such as Henry Ford do not recognize the changes and cannot react to them well. There is a well-known expression by Mr. Ford: a customer can have a car of any color they like as soon as it is black. Sorry, Mr. Ford. It means that not even Mr. Ford, given this vast contribution to automotive industry, he did not grasp all the changes, and the consequences were like this. Although in 1924 there were 2 million of these automobiles sold, in 3 years later it was less than 1/4, because customers wanted something else. They wanted more up-to-date models, more up-to-date technologies. And Mr. Ford, who supported just driving for the lowest price, he didn't understand that. He was not investing into development, and this was the result. I showed you these two examples so that you can understand that the change that is upcoming and the new information. We can approach this in two ways. We can either get sidetracked, get lost, or we can grasp them as a new opportunity and move forward by giant leaps. The Slovak thermal industry in the last 25 years has done quite a lot of work in moving forward. In our organization, we made a survey among the heat production companies. The research was updated this year, so we can have some more information. This is the change of heat sales from 1993 until 2018. This is projection, what heating companies expect. So you can see a radical drop. 2.5 less heat is sold in Slovakia this year as it was sold 30 or 25 years ago. This points out to purification of this drop, so that it disregards sites that have been disconnected. So this is, you can see this better, the red field is the basal level of heat sales in these days. Fluctuations are only due to weather, and this light blue is caused by increased efficiency, for example insulation regulations and so forth, and the dark blue is a drop caused by disconnections from central system. So historically in the last 10 years the influence on disconnection has not been that great. It seems that also heating insulation loss are over because a great part of key sites has been insulated already. I also used data from another city. You can see the drop of heat consumption in our houses, just historically starting 2001. From the original level of maybe 150 kilowatt hours per meter square of heated area, we are below 60 kilowatt per meter square, and you can see the phasing on this curve that beforehand there was a period of regulation of systems. There was a certain drop connected with this, and this other drop is connected with installations in this city. So we are running stable for some. We have been running stable for some time at the level of about 60 kilowatt hours. Obviously, it depends on the weather any given year. This is the same city, house by house. In the 1 year, you can see this, that although the average is around 60, there are some houses that are still have higher consumption and lower efficiency. This is caused, for example, in this area that measures they've taken were not of adequate quality, so this house will probably have to be re-insulated. But what this shows is that the drop caused by efficiency will not be dramatic anymore. When I said that in the last 25 years the heating industry went through great developments, we also focused on development of investments in the heat industry to use renewable resources or cogeneration. This is not in absolute numbers, this is not in millions, this is a time axis, so that you can see this in different years, because you can see that the greatest volume of investments was in 2006, which was 5, 6, 7. This was the time of the first operational program run by the Ministry of Economy in the environmental area. Then it was 2011-2012, this peaked. The second programming period peaked, and then heating companies in the next year expect to implement measures, investments into efficiency of distribution systems and the use of renewable energies. What is also connected with investments is updating heat production, which means less people, less staff employed. now heating companies work with 1/4 of the staff as before. So this also points out to updating of the heating systems in Slovakia. The question is, what can we do with the concept of the district heating systems of the 4th generation? This is not only inspiring for us, I think that this is something that gives us the meaning of the existence of district heating systems for the future, because this opens a new set of doors. This is also connected with European legislation. Several speakers before me talked about the winter energy package that was published about a year ago under the name Clean Energy for All Europeans. And this has 3 basic objectives. The first priority or the first objective is to turn energy efficiency into a priority. This is the text number 1 that this package of legislation has. Then another great objective is to achieve the fact that the European Union is the leader in using renewable energy sources. And the third, which is focused on consumers, is to give them fair conditions. What should be achieved by this? First one is to lower emissions of greenhouse gases, then lower import dependency, create new jobs. This is social policy. Then increase the role of consumers on the market. This is internal market, and this is also connected to the concept of the 4th generation. I used the scheme by the professor to remind you, to remind all of us, because for us to move forward, there is an entire number of barriers we have to cross. And in the upcoming slides, I would like to draw attention to some basic issues that we've been talking about for a long time, but we never moved forward. And these are of key importance for us to move forward, and these are connected with heating systems of the 4th generation, with what we can apply, but we've not moved where we would like to be. I chose 3 technical issues of key importance from the whole package. The first one is cogeneration. If you allow me, maybe you cannot see this, I will read it from here. In the economical and technical evaluation of applying this in the Ministry of Economy, it says that the greatest potential of highly efficient combined production is in existing systems of central heating distribution that provide for production of heat to end consumer. The official material from 2015, the same material further claims that it is presumed that in the upcoming years the greatest use of technical potential of highly efficient combined production of electricity and heat will be in the segment of existing small and mid-term sources of heat that burn gas and together with motors. This is also illustrated by the chart that illustrates combined resources. The greatest growth in the area of cogeneration of using motors, combustion motors. This is for the official part. If you let me, I will cite one more document. This is the action plan of energy dependency until 2020, the current period. This is the material of the Ministry of Economy, also the official material. It says that increasing energy production in combined energy sources until 2020 compared to 2014 should be up to 17% of the entire electricity produced. Using of this plant potential is now broken down into different years. Annual installed performance should reach 27 megawatts, but because of overbearing of the electricity system in 2015, construction was limited, and also increasing of the performance for combined production. So in the one and the same paragraph, we are setting ourselves an ambition goal and also stating that we cannot live up to it. And this is the problem, because now we are in the year of 2017, so we are in the middle of this time period, and we are still treading water, and we do not seem to be able to move forward. So this was cogeneration. Now let's talk about renewable sources. The strategy of the European Union in the area of heating and cooling, it was mentioned before. This is a new document. Says that increasing use of renewable sources of energy could be achieved by central systems of heating and cooling. This is an ideal statement. Then draft energy policy of the Slovak Republic says to support effective system of central heating systems and heat generation. And the national plan says that the high level of centralizing of heat delivery creates good conditions for using renewable sources of energy. And these are all statements that we all can agree with. And now this strategy of EU in the area of heating has summary part that summarizes the situation in different countries. This is for Slovakia, and it talks about the use of renewable energy on heating, and you can see that after a dramatic growth we are starting to drop. To give you a different source, this is the chart from annual reports by the regulation authority, and this is the share of fossil fuels on heating after a drop in 2011-2012, when a lot of invested into new capacities in creating heat from renewable sources and stabilization. Now it is growing, and obviously with renewable sources, not biomass, but in general their share has been dropping in recent years. So unfortunately, just as cogeneration has reached a flat curve, also renewable energy. Then waste heat. This is the third area. I will not be reading this, you can read it yourself, but the principle is clear that central systems are the best platform to use waste heat. It is better to talk about excess heat than waste heat, because waste heat sounds bad. It is not waste. That will be difficult. Well, and this can be reused in the district heating systems. But problems that we are facing in Slovakia, if somebody is supplying this waste surplus heat, he or she is a producer of heat, because they are producing heat to generate profit. So they would require a special license to produce heat. How do we set up price of this heat? Does it have to have two components? Because according to valid rules, it has to be like this. It has to be also approved by the regulation authorities. And how should the regulation performance be set up in this case? How should the fixed component of the heat price be paid? Because it should be paid like 1/12 of this heat every month, so you are paying even though you are not using it at the moment, because this heat is not available from the company. For example, they are on vacation or they are not producing at all. And how would you be compliant with quality standards, because it is surplus heat, so it is not produced for consumers, but it is just surplus heat. So this opens many problems that are still unresolved, that they are still hanging up in the air. And when I said that I chose three main technical areas, that is cogeneration, renewable sources, and use of surplus heat, in none of these areas the situation in Slovakia is that we would be jumping with joy. We still have many problems ahead of us that we have to tackle. By this I wanted to say that we still have not resolved any issues that are connected with central heating systems of the fourth generation. We are already facing new challenges that are ahead of us. A great emphasis on the winter energy package is focused on efficiency. In addition to other things, it means that there is attempt to use energy we have available at the point of consumption as much as we can. For example, heat that leaves by ventilation or heat in wastewater. There will be great pressure to make sure that energy is produced as close to the point of consumption as possible to eliminate distribution cost. That means using solar panels on roofs of houses that are connected to central heating systems. Also lowering waste and loss and so forth. So does this mean the end of the central systems? Or will this mean great problems for these systems? I would like us to leave thinking that it is not like that, because all these new pressures, new trends, they bring new opportunities for district heating systems, because district heating systems in future will not just be producing and distributing energy. This will not be enough. There will be operators on the market, because there will be different new sources we would want to use and apply. So we are standing in front of new tasks. We need to provide transportation of energy from the point where it is produced, and this is not just one central boiler, because this could be multiple sources, and transport this energy to the point where it is consumed. We also have the opportunity, those of us who have the heating infrastructure, we have the opportunity of using those heating resources that are available on site. That means optimize the costs and select the source that is most efficient from the cost point of view. So we will become some kind of managers of costs, manage costs of producing heat. The same goes for the environmental impact, because only those who are able to manage the infrastructure within their municipality, they can manage the sources in a way to make them as environmentally friendly as possible. Only we are the ones who are able to make sure that sources, that is surplus heat is not being wasted. Only we are able to guarantee the quality of heat supply to every consumer, so that all consumers have heat where they need it and in the quality they need it. We are the ones able to manage information for consumers, so that they can have the information they need to make their decisions, but also those consumers that are producers of heat. We are able to store heat in a purposeful and efficient way at the moment when there is surplus. For example, when the sun is shining at lunchtime, and store it for the evening where this heat is needed, and also use the surplus electricity from renewable sources when we cannot use it, but we can use it to produce heat and some other systems that will show up. So district heating systems have a great perspective because they are more efficient. And please let me also take a look at two very important areas that are also included in the winter energy package and that will accompany us. There is a great emphasis played on the flow of information for consumers, and I will also include a point of view of Slovakia, because member states should make sure that final balance includes all information that impact final cost. This is the guideline of the European Parliament on energy efficiency. And the winter energy package also says that the package of information in the area of energy efficiency is focused on provisions on measurement and invoicing of heat energy, especially as far as remote and district heating and cooling is concerned, and also hot and cold water. It provides access to more clear information on consumption and more frequent feedback for consumers in buildings with several apartments. So you can see that there is a great emphasis on information, because a consumer must have timely and precise information on their consumption so that they can make their decisions. And they also need complete information so that they can know how much they pay in different systems, because then they can compare their costs in an individual boiler, or when they get hooked up to district heating systems. There was something done in Slovakia. There's the guideline number 240, and this provision that requires to inform, even with local boilers, to inform about total cost of heating. The problem is that, as it is quite common in Slovakia, we do not always go to the entire go for the whole run. So the structure has not been defined. We have made an important step, but we will need to go to take the extra mile and make sure it is really useful. Another area that is vital is environmental protection, and the winter package states a very interesting thing, and it is very important to remind us. Energy efficiency also has positive impact on health and related costs. Modern efficient heating systems burn less fossil fuels and emit less pollutants into the environment, and thus improve quality of air and decrease emissions of greenhouse effects into the air. We saw the example of Stockholm, and this was a clear demonstration of how important this area is. None of us want to live in such an area, not even in such an area. It is much better to live in this way. And Mr. Eriksson, this is not Stockholm, this is Hriňova, central Slovakian village, but it also looks good, I think. When we are talking about the environment, I think that those who know me know that this is stronger than me, I have to say it. An anti-smoking corner. Did you know that by smoking one cigarette, there's 1 liter of smoke that escapes into the air? It contains 4,000 chemicals, and 43 of them are carcinogenic. By smoking one cigarette, there's 14 milligrams of CO, 14 milligrams and 20 milligrams of CO2, and 0.5 milligrams of NOx. And by smoking one cigarette, there's 15% of ashes from the tobacco. I'll show you this in a different way so you can see what are the Slovak standards for biomass boilers. So we can see this side by side. CO with cigarettes is 13,600 milligrams. Boilers can only emit 250. With TZL it is 14,300 and 250 for boilers. NOx also is different, and also ashes 15%, and when a wood chip is burned it's about 2%. This is just for you to see that producers of heat are in a difficult position. I'm not saying this is impossible. We understand it, so we build boilers that have filters in this position, so that as few of pollutants is released into the atmosphere, so that we can preserve the environment. As a paradox, cigarettes have filter on the other end, as they should be, because they protect the one who creates pollution, not the ones that have to breathe it. So I think that maybe it's time to get the winter anti-smoking package. Maybe we will see it one day.
The reason why I'm saying it, because together it's more ecological. We've seen this before. What is coming now are new trends in energy industry, and they're bringing new opportunities and new challenges. And I think that thanks to the infrastructure which we have built in Slovakia, Slovakia could be one of the leaders in this area. But what do we need for that? We need to have an opportunity and room to invest into increasing energy efficiency and using innovative approaches and technologies. It's a bit difficult to do it with investment factor or coefficient. Why? But it's possible, but we should make some more progress to have a chance to create individual business models which we cannot create today, mainly because district heating of fourth generation will go two ways. At one point you take heat from someone, and at another time you supply it back, and with the current possibilities which we have, it's not very practical. We need to ensure for all energy consumers truthful, not distorted and especially complete information. The operators of central heating systems have them. It's important that everybody has them. We need to be able to conclude long-term and guaranteed contracts with our customers so that we can make investments, so that they have stability on their side. So I believe that what we need to do is to change inefficient regulation which does not help to either consumers or the suppliers. And one little story to conclude. I have no doubt that all the efforts coming from Brussels, innovations, EU legislation, and the pressure on all of us to make progress, to be more efficient, to use more renewable energy sources and so on. I don't have doubts that there is a good intention behind that. That's for sure. It's meant well. It's not with the intention to harm someone. But I give you the following story. This is a photo from Brussels. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can. On the left, a bit further, is a building. Residence Palace, it's called. It's a building where many conferences and events take place. Many people come there from all over Europe. And this Brussels European Centre is a bit concentrated, but sometimes it's confusing. You need to find some time to find the proper building. And quite many people go on these stairs to this building. Someone with a good intention decided to make it easier for these people to get there and placed on an arrow a sign for people who are going down where they should turn. It's written here, the name of the building. This person had a good intention to help the people, that's for sure. But another person came, also with a good intention, who said, there's many people going on these stairs. Everybody has to open this gate and close it. It's quite big, especially for women. It may be complicated. So with a good intention, he said, let's open this gate during the day so that people can freely move, can go. And please see this arrow, what happened to it when the gate was open. You see. It's sending the people in a completely opposite direction. I'm saying it based on my experience, because I also lost my way there. What I want to say by this is that good intentions are not always sufficient. Obviously, it's a good condition for good work, but sometimes it's necessary to think about it, to keep cool head and to think about it and to adopt measures which are efficient and right. And by this I want to conclude. I like to abuse this by position that I have, and I want to approach the Ministry of Economy and the Regulation Office to let's put our forces together, put our heads together, maybe let's form a working group which will include people who have open mind. Let's go through all these issues that we have been discussing and the challenges. Let's define the obstacles. Let's say how we can remove them. Let's determine a plan of steps how to make progress. As I've said, Slovakia has a well-developed infrastructure. We're a country which, in the new concept of district heating systems, can play first fiddle in Europe. Why not to use it, since we can be among the first, among the leaders? Thank you very much.